Welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. We come to you this week from Westfield, New Jersey. In a moment, we will go inside the district office of Republican Congressman Leonard Lance for an interview. Also on today's show, one mayor in New Jersey is sick and tired of people using his town as a shortcut to New York, and he's taking action. Also, New Jersey is expected to become the first state in the country to put warning labels on a certain type of drug. And they may call it the Bronx Tale, but it has a real New Jersey connection. We'll explain. And now our interview with Leonard Lance, who recently has been in opposition to Donald Trump and the Republican Party on many key issues. I ask him why.
Look at all these headlines. Headline after headline seems to be Leonard Lance opposes Donald Trump on this. Leonard Lance separates from Republican Party on something. Is that something you're doing leading up to the election, or is it just timing out that way? Is it because there's these issues lining up that just puts you on the other side of your party?
It's based issue by issue, and I want to represent the constituents I have the honor of serving. And if I agree with the president, I will support his policies, and if I disagree with the president, I will indicate where my disagreement exists.
Let's go through those policies if we can. One is background checks on guns, where you've gone against, I'm not sure where Donald Trump stands now on it, but I know that background checks is something that Republicans have weakened over the last couple of years, and you want to make them much stronger.
I want there to be background checks in all situations, and I've signed on a bill to that effect. Congressman Thompson of California and Congressman King, a Republican of New York from Long Island, have a bill in that area, and I have become a co-sponsor, and I think it's important to have background checks, and this is supported by the overwhelming majority of the American people. Regardless of political party, it's supported by an overwhelming majority of those who belong to the NRA, and I do not mean to demonize any group in America, and certainly it's supported by an overwhelming majority of the constituents.
So this would be universal background checks?
That's correct.
And you have 19 Republicans that are all together. You're leading 19 Republicans in this effort.
There are quite a few Republicans who are involved in this, and that's why I've signed on to the Thompson-King bill, and let's hope that there can be progress in this area. I also favor Nix Fix, which means that the information that is available at the federal level should be distributed to local authorities, and Fix Nix needs to occur because information that the federal authorities had was not made available to authorities in Florida in the recent horrific incident.
Absolutely. There's some major problems in Florida, and it seems like there was lots of red flags, and no one saw them, and I don't think anybody would disagree that that needs to be fixed. Where do you see the loopholes? Specifically when we talk about New Jersey, because New Jersey has pretty tough gun laws. Where do you see the loopholes here?
New Jersey has very, very strong gun legislation, among the strongest anywhere in the nation, but regarding background checks, I think that should be across the entire country, and not just state-specific. And regarding Fix Nix, that should be across the country as well. I also favor banning bump stocks, and that is supported by the overwhelming majority of the American people. And I don't know what will be able to pass in both houses of the federal Congress, because as you know, regarding the United States Senate, it requires a 60-vote threshold because of the filibuster, and so we have to make sure that legislation to reach the goal line has the ability to pass the United States Senate.
Yeah, is your concern on the universal background checks, and I'll get off this issue in a second, is that you can buy a gun in Pennsylvania and bring it to New Jersey, and so you don't have the stricter laws in Pennsylvania or somewhere else?
In effect, and also guns that may be purchased at gun shows, and they predominate in other regions of the nation, and yeah, so those are some of my concerns.
There's so many Republicans that are running for office look for NRA money. Mm-hmm. Does this hurt your funding when you come out and something like this?
No, and I think I have received over the last 10 years, maybe $1,000 from the NRA. I've recently received a contribution from Gabby Giffords' group, which is, I suppose, on the other side of this issue. And I do not take funding from the NRA. I believe a $1,000 contribution 6 years ago, and that's 12 cycles ago, because there's a primary cycle and a general election cycle. Right. And I think I've raised between $7 and $8 million over the last 10 years. And so it's not a factor. I don't want to demonize any group, however, and there are several million members of the NRA, and they are law-abiding citizens, and they believe, as I believe, in the Bill of Rights and the Second Amendment, and we have to make sure that we respect the Bill of Rights. But I think we can do that and have, for example, background checks.
Is the Gateway project in jeopardy?
The president has said that he doesn't favor it, and I very much favor it, and I hope that it will be contained in legislation we pass to fund the government. I voted for that legislation last autumn in the House of Representatives in an appropriations bill sponsored by Congressman Frelinghuysen, the chairman of the Appropriations Committee. That bill did not pass the Senate, probably because of the filibuster, and so we've been operating under a series of continuing resolutions, and now we have to fund the government for the rest of this fiscal year, and I hope that that appropriations bill includes funding for the Gateway Tunnel.
I believe the president said if it does include funding for the tunnel, he'll veto it.
I hope that that was a negotiating strategy, and I want to place on his desk a bill that does fund the Gateway Tunnel, at least the beginning of it, $900 million, and that has been contained in Chairman Frelinghuysen's legislation, and I want to make sure that that continues.
You also have a bill asking for the president to make sure that he holds the sanctions against Russia. Are you concerned that he's not treating Russia as strongly or taking Russia as seriously as he should be taking them?
Russia has been a bad actor. The Russian government, this is not the Russian people, it's the Russian government, has definitely been a bad actor, was involved in trying to tamper with our election process in 2016. The experts have testified to that effect on Capitol Hill, and I am sure are attempting to tamper with the federal elections this year, 2018, and I think sanctions should be in place as quickly as possible.
Several stories have been out there saying that the steel and aluminum tariffs that the governor wants is going to hurt New Jersey companies and possibly raise prices for people in New Jersey. Do you think those tariffs are a good idea?
I do not. I'm a free trader and have always been a free trader. But this is a controversial issue because we're an affluent East Coast state and we rely on free trade. But there are many Americans who are hurting in the middle of our country, and certainly we should negotiate better with partners because we don't want the dumping of steel or aluminum in this country. But I am a free trader. It's based upon, I think, New Jersey's place in the world. We are a state that relies heavily on foreign trade, and New Jersey will always be a state based upon our geography, and my views have been consistent on this issue. And I think the Republican Party traditionally has been the party of free trade, certainly for the last 70 years since the end of World War II. And so I hope that the president will reconsider this. I understand there may be exceptions already in the offing, perhaps for Canada and Mexico and other partners, but I hope he would reconsider.
It seems like an issue after, we're going through 3 or 4 issues where you're in opposition to Donald Trump. Do you hear from the White House? Are they upset with you? Did they call and say, what are you doing?
I have not heard from the president. He's a very busy man. He's the most powerful person on earth, but I'm try to represent my district. My title is representative, and I represent the interests of the district I serve. I'm honored to serve about 750,000 people in a district on the East Coast, and I think that my views, in fact, I am sure that my views are the views of the constituents I represent.
When we come back, I want to talk about an art contest that you are very proud of, and also a couple of bills that you authored that just went through. When we come back on Jersey Matters with Republican Congressman Leonard Lance.